Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Dear students, I welcome you back again to the lectures series of course material Transportation Engineering 2. In the previous lectures, we have discussed about the two operational components of any airport, that is runway and the taxiways. We have seen the design aspects of those as well as the geometric aspects of provision of any runway or a taxiway or a different types of taxiways on any of airport. Along with that, we have also seen about, we have discussed about the aprons and the different types of aprons. In today's lecture, in continuation of the components of any airport, we will be discussing about the terminal area and the building, which is one of the administrative points of any control over any airport. So, within this particular lecture, what we are going to discuss is the different types of the layouts of airports, the terminal area, the relation of terminal area with runways, the passenger terminal area and the terminal building. Along with that, we will also be looking at the space requirements to be provided in any of the terminal building for various activities which takes place within that building. Here we are looking at one of the figures of a big airport. This is Valley International Airport. This is the extent of the airport or the area which is being provided to this airport. This is what we can see by the dotted line as being shown here. This is the way it is being provided, and this is the developmental area where we have the technical college site or we have the Marine Military Academy site on this one, and this is the administrative area of this international airport. Now, here what we can see is that there are certain runway strips being provided. This is one runway strip provided here. There is another runway strip being provided in this direction, and then we have the crossing runway strips provided in this form. So, it means in this airport there is a combination of runway strips being provided. At the same time, we can also see the taxiways provided here, and these taxiways being connected to the runway strips by the provision of this exit taxiway on this side, as well as there are perpendicular connectivities between the parallel taxiway and the runway strip. Similarly, there is a connectivity here, there is another connectivity here, then on this side and as well as on this side. So, they are all taxiway connectivities being provided in this diagram or in this airport. This is another airport which is Provo Municipal Airport in Utah, and here what we can see is that it is a sort of a frontal condition where the aircrafts can come on this location. These are the aprons being provided, and it is an administrative building of this one, and then it is also having the crossing runway strips being located in this form. And these runway strips have been connected to the terminal building by the provision of the taxiway lanes like this, and similarly on this side we can see the taxiway lanes going on in this form. So, they are taking the aircrafts to the terminal building. There is another connectivity being provided on this side also. This is another figure of the Provo Municipal Airport which tries to define the future things which needs to come up in this area and this particular airport, and they have been shown in the yellow color. And here we the locations of various important components have been shown along with the other strips in terms of runway strips or taxiways. Here these are the air cargo commodity center where these can be controlled or these can be processed, and then there is a permanent passenger terminal complex to come up in this location, and then there is a corporate hangar or there is another general aviation hangars being provided at this location. This is the apron area. This is the fuel storage facility provided very near to the hangars. These are the hangars. So, these are the things which can be provided in this form on any of the airport, and some of these aspects we have already discussed. This is another airport, Istanis International Airport, where we are having the main building in the center, and then the runway strips being provided on the two of the sides of this building, that is on this side as well as on this side, and then they have the multiple connectivities as we have discussed with regards to the exit taxiways to be provided at different locations, so that this runway can be cleared as soon as possible, and this will increase obviously the airport capacity in terms of the number of passengers handled or the number of aircrafts handled. Here the aircrafts will be coming to these apron or this apron area, and that is what is the terminal apron area being provided in this form. So, in that sense, if we look at the different components of any airport system, then what we found is that within the airport system, though there is outside air space through which the plane is coming to the airport, within the airport system we have two sides. One is termed as the air side, another is termed as the land side. In the case of air side, we have already discussed about the runways, the holding pads, the exit taxiways and the taxiway systems, and the apron and gate area systems. These are already being discussed in the previous lectures. On the land side, we have the terminal buildings and we have the vehicular circulation parking, and then there is a ground access system being provided, so that the airport can be accessed by the city or by the passengers who are going to come to use this airport. So, that is the way how the overall systems or overall components can be divided. So, in today's lecture we will be concentrating on this aspect, that is the land side aspect, which is here also again it will be more emphasis is given to the terminal building area. So, the airport system planning process, in that sense, if we look at it is defined in something like by this type of a flow chart, where it's we have certain policies, and with respect to those policies we define the issues, goals and objectives, which are controlled at the same time by certain legislation, as we have discussed about zoning and the laws to be framed. Then assess existing system, what are the facilities being provided, and then we have to make the forecast, where there should not be constraints to on this forecasting, and it is obviously related to population and employment, and then the deficiencies needs to be identified, and these deficiencies may be in terms of the general aviation, or it may be in terms of specific air carrier. So, that needs to be looked at, and then some analysis is to be done, and this analysis will be looking at the alternate policies or the ways by which the deficiencies can be removed. So, the preferred systems will be looked at and the performance analysis will be done, and finally, once this is being done, then a system is recommended and it is implemented. So, once it is implemented, then we keep on getting the information on the implementation and the use and operation of that facility with the new system, and if again we found that there is a problem, then the all of the process starts back, and that is why it is the continuous process of planning. Here in these colors with the darkness colors, certain milestones have been shown, because they are the important points of any airport system planning, that is the forecast, the analysis and the recommendation of any system which will remove the deficiencies of the existing airport system. So, in this one we are talking about the airport system planning process. What we are going to look is at the objectives of that planning process, and what it needs is that there should be an orderly and timely development of a system of airports adequate to meet present and future aviation needs, and then there should be a development as a part of a balanced and multimodal transportation system satisfying aviation goals. Further, there should be protection and enhancement of the environment, and then there should be optimization of land use and airspace plans and resource optimization. So, these are in general the main objectives of any of the planning process, but then there are some more things which needs to be looked at, like the provision of the framework which is consistent with the short and the long range airport system requirements, and that is what we are talking about, the deficiencies. So, we have to look at the immediate deficiencies or the deficiencies which may be there in a long range development, and within that long range development plans we have to formulate the plans and then fix the priorities, so that the financing can be decided how the money will be coming, so that the development can take place in a phased manner. And in that one, what is needed is a coordination between the various agencies which are involved, and we have to find out the way out or the mechanism by which this type of a coordination can be achieved. Now, we come to the type of the or the layout of any airport. In the case of any layout, one thing which we are discussing is the terminal area, because the rest of the things we have seen in the previous diagrams, and then we have also discussed in the previous lectures. So, here in the case of terminal area, we have the terminal building, we have the traffic control tower, the apron, hangars, the parking area for passenger vehicles. In this case, we have already discussed about the aprons, and we will be discussing about the terminal building. The traffic control tower will not be taken up, as it is more related towards the electronic side of control, but we will be looking at certain control measures in terms of the visual aids like markings and lightings in one of our lectures. So, further in this layout of the airport, we have also seen, we also discussed about the runways, and we have also discussed about the taxiways. So, here in the terminal area, how we can define it is that it is a major interface between the airfield and the rest of the airport or the ground access to that airport. This is what we have seen when we have looked at the figure where the components of the overall airport system have been defined with the airspace system, the field system, the land system, and the ground access system. So, that is why this is one of the interface between the two of the systems, and it includes the facilities for passengers and the baggage processing, cargo handling, airport maintenance, operations, and the administration activities. So, the number of activities are there which needs to be provided within this area, and that is from where the overall control comes in. Now, in this sense, if we are looking at the very first aspect, that is related to the passenger, then we will be talking about the passenger terminal area. And this passenger terminal area is one of the major connectivity which is provided between the ground access system and the aircraft, because the persons who are coming from the city by using certain access systems being provided on the ground, they will be reaching the airport, and then before reaching the aircraft directly so as to board it for moving to another city, they have to cross certain terminal area and the activities placed within that. So, that is why this is a connectivity being provided between two of the things. It provides the interface between the airport access mode and aircraft, process the passengers for origination or termination or continuation. These are the three things which can happen with respect to any of the passenger. It may happen the passenger is starting the journey from that airport, and that is where it is an origination condition, and the aircraft is also starting from that location. Or it may be a termination where the aircraft has reached the final destination, and therefore, the passengers are coming out of the aircraft and are coming out of the airport also subsequently. Whereas, the third condition may be a continuation condition, where the aircraft is coming to an intermediate airport and will still continue its flight to some other destination, and there are some passengers who will be coming out and some will be boarding, and that is where there is a continuation of the air transportation trip. And at the same time, there may be the requirements of the passenger and baggage to and from the aircraft, depending on what type of movement they are taking up. So, that is the way how any passenger terminal area can be defined. Now, when you talk about this passenger terminal area, then in that passenger terminal area there are two things. One is that the different type of activities which will be taking place in that area, and another thing is the physical systems which needs to be provided so that those activities can be taken up. So, in that sense, if we look at there is an access or egress system wherein the people will be either driving or they will be riding any transport system so as to reach the airport, or there may be a transfer from one vehicle to the airport system. That is the type of the thing which can happen, and at the same time when those persons who have reached their destination will be going out of the airport again, they may be driving a car, there may be a rental car or their own car which has been parked there, or they will be riding another system like a bus system, or there may be some transfer facilities. After that, and between the flight, that is the final thing which can happen, and the people will be flying, that is the activity which will be taking place. In between these two things, there are certain activities which are taking place, and they are within the passenger terminal system. Like there is an access and processing interface where there may be the enplaning or deplaning persons, there may be the parking of the vehicles, or there may be the circulation of the vehicles as well as the passengers or the persons who have come to see off or who has come to receive the passengers of any flight. Then there is a processing. Processing will be consisting of number of activities like ticketing, checking in of the baggage, checking passports if it is a international flight system, then claiming of the baggage and checking of the customs again required for international flight. Then processing or the flight interface will be there, that is once you have been processed and once you are moving towards the flight, that is all customs checks or baggages have been given or the passports have been checked and claimed. Then and between taking the flight, there will be things like you have to assemble at a certain location which is termed as the passenger launch, and that is a part of the passenger terminal area where before boarding any flight you will be just standing and looking at your aircraft, and then it means it involves waiting, and then there can be a loading in the aircraft, or there may be an unloading depending if you have reached a destination, or there is an aircraft which has come on the intermediate airport, and therefore, there are certain passengers who are unloading where there will be some passengers who will be loading in this system. So, these are the different activities which will be there. Now, if we look at the physical facilities which can be provided, then in that sense for the access system or the egress system, we can have the highways, or we can have the rail right of way connectivities, or there may be certain transfer stations in terms of the various modes like auto rickshaw or a taxi or a bus, or at some times there can be a type of a facility in terms of the train or the transit, that is mass transit system being provided like metros, or the rail connectivity being at number of airports are there where this type of connectivities have been provided. Then there is a V-stall or S-stall facility, that is the vertical takeoff landing or steep takeoff landing facilities provided at certain airports where a person is coming by some flight and then they have their own personal plane, or they are to be lifted by say the helicopter so as to reach a destination where the other things cannot go, or it is immediate urgent emergency requirement. So, that is the type of the system which may be available on the airport itself. So, these are all the access or egress facilities which can be provided. Then when we are talking about the person's processing or the person's initial activities which will be taking place at the interface of coming into the airport, then it may be n-plane curve or d-plane curve, means the locations or the pathways or the side walks where the persons can stand, and they are the separate areas for those who are n-planing or the separate area for those who are going to d-plane. At the same time, there are parking garages. If it is a big airport, then needs to be provided, otherwise there can be a parking lot in which the vehicles can be parked, or there is a transit platform. Then when we talk about the processing, the facilities needs to be provided are in terms of ticket counters from where the tickets can be taken, the baggage deposit system there the baggage are given, the passenger passport counters where the passports can be checked by the officials, then bag claim device, that is if you are reaching to an airport, then you will be claiming your baggage, and the customs counter, that is again at both the times where you are going out or you are coming in of an international flight, then you have to either declare something, then that requires to go to the customs counter. Then further again at the interface of the flight and your processing, you have the hold rooms where you will be waiting, that is the lounge, the waiting lounge or the mobile lounge, means you are moving within through that corridor so as to reach it, or sometimes the facilities are provided in terms of the buses or jetways or stairs or ramps, so that you are taken to the aircraft by these facilities and you will be boarding the aircraft. So, the aircraft will be there on some apron and you will reach that aircraft by these facilities and board it. So, it means what we look at is that it is the various components are the access interface, where the transfer of passengers from the access mode of travel to the passenger processing component is there, and it involves activities like circulation, parking, curbside loading and unloading of passengers, and that is what we have already seen, and we will be just looking at all those things one by one. Another thing is that processing of passengers is the preparation for steering, ending or starting, that is starting, ending or continuation of an air transportation trip. The activities in this case are ticketing, baggage check, baggage claim, seat assignment, that is once you have the ticket you take the seat at the counter itself, and inspection and security. So, these are the things which will be processed. And then the next is the flight interface, and at that interface the passengers transfers from the processing component to the aircraft, and therefore, the activities here are assembly, conveyance to and from the aircraft, and aircraft loading and unloading. Now, we look at the access interface, and the various facilities which will be included in this interface are unplaning or deplaning curve frontage, which provides the loading or unloading with vehicular access to and from the terminal building. So, you are at the terminal building and you are trying to go to the aircraft, or if you have come from by the aircraft and you have to reach the terminal building. So, some facilities are being provided for that. So, that type of curve frontage is there. The automobile parking facilities for passengers, visitors, employees, as well as the facilities for rental cars, public transit, taxis, etc. So, these are the things needs to be provided outside the airport in front of that, and the vehicular roadway which provides the access to the terminal curbs, parking spaces, public street, highway system, etc. So, these are the various facilities in the access interface. Further, there are pedestrian walkways for crossing roads, automated systems which provide access between the parking facilities and the terminal buildings. Then there are the service roads which are provides the access to various facilities in the terminal area or to some other airport facilities. In the case of the processing system, the various facilities included will be the airline ticket counters and offices which are used for ticket transfer, baggage check-in, flight information, administrative personnel, etc. Then there are the terminal service space which consist of public and non-public areas like amenities, food, storage, etc. Then there is a lobby for circulation and visitor waiting. Then the public circulation space such as stairways, escalators, elevators, corridors, etc. So, these are all parts of the processing system. We also look at some more systems like the outbound baggage space for sorting and processing baggage for departing flights. That is the two conditions. One is for departing flights. So, we have to sort out the baggages on the basis of the various intermediate or the final destinations which will be taken up by that flight. Then intraline and interline baggage space for processing baggage transferred from one flight to another. That is a condition where a passenger may be taking a connecting flight, and therefore, there is a transfer of baggage from one airline to the another airline or within the same airline system. Then the inbound baggage space for receiving baggage from arriving flight and for delivering it to the arriving passenger. So, that is another facility which of processing which will be there on any processing system of the passenger terminal area. Further, certain administrative things needs to be provided in terms of airport or the service areas which will be used again for administrative reasons by the airport management, operations and maintenance facilities. Then inspection service facilities for processing passenger arrival on an international flights, means it is related to securities, it related to the customs and the passport facilities, the immigrations or all such type of things. Now, looking at the flight interface, what we found that the facilities being provided are like concourse, which provide circulation to the departure lounge and other terminal areas. So, that is a sort of a connectivity being provided between the different facilities. Then departure lounge for assembling passengers for a flight departure, that is you are just in front of your aircraft, looking at that from the windows, and you are assembled in a lounge from where you will be allowed to move to the aircraft once the aircraft is ready for flight. Then there are passenger boarding devices needs to be provided, so that the passengers can move into the aircraft, and there may be different type of things like the stairways or the departure lounge concourse which gets connected from the departure lounge to the plane. So, such type of devices will be there, so needs to be provided. Then there will be airline operation space for airline personnel, equipments, activities related to arrival and departure of aircraft. Then the security facilities are used for inspection of passengers and baggages. Now, we come to the main terminal area and we look at what is the functional role of any such terminal area or terminal building as such. In that case, there is one functional role which is termed as originating terminating role. Now, in the case of this originating terminating role, there is a beginning or ending of trip and there is a high level of passenger flow, because the aircraft is starting from there. It is then all the passengers will be moving towards the aircraft, or if it is a terminating role, then all the passengers will be coming out of the aircraft and will be moving towards the various facilities. Another one is through role, whereas in this case the aircraft is moving to another destination, but on the way it is going to stop at one of the airports which comes on the way. So, here there may be the low percentage of originating flights and high percentage of through passengers, means those passengers who will remain within the flight, and there will very less number of persons who will be coming out of the flight or will be boarding that flight. So, that is the difference between the originating and terminating role and the through role. Apart from these two, then there is another role which is known as transfer role. Now, here it is happening in terms of the connectivities to be taken up between the origin and destination, which is not being provided by one type of a flight. So, in that sense, a person will be taking two flights being provided with connectivity at a certain intermediate airport, or maybe sometimes at a terminal airport, and then it takes the person takes another flight from that terminal airport to the destination. So, therefore, there can be a high percentage of passengers who are connecting between the arriving and departing flights, and that happens in the case of big airports or hubs, which provides the connectivities from one point to the other destination, another point in the world with the connecting flights. So, at that location you will find that a large number of people are transferring from one area to the other area so as to take those flights. Here we are looking at again on an airport layout. This is the Pittsburgh International layout, where what we can see is that there is a centralized terminal area being shown here in the form of circle, and then there are some arms which are coming out of this circle, that these are the arms which are there. Here this is a single arm, this is also a single arm, and but this is a L shape arm here, and this is another L shape arm here. These are the locations along which the aircrafts have been parked. All these hazy area which we can see here, this hazy area around all these locations, they are the aircraft stands or the gate locations from where the passengers will be boarding these aircrafts. So, this is the type of a connectivity being provided here, and what we can see further is that there are a number of, there is a chain of runway strips being provided. We can see the runway strips here, we can see the runway strips here are moving in this direction, and then these have been connected by the use of the exit taxiways provided at different locations, or the taxiway lanes, or that simple taxiways being provided. This overall white area being located like this is the terminal apron in this sense. So, after looking at this aerial photograph of the Pittsburgh International Airport, let us look at a closer look of some of the facilities being provided in that one. Here this is a parking facility provided at the international airport. We can see the ground parking facilities being provided and the big parking garage provided in the center. Then there are the landslide terminal activities, that is how we are reaching towards the final flight. This is how all the steps have been shown here. So, this is the landslide terminal. So, from this parking area we are coming to this one, or from the roads which are coming here, which are bringing the traffic, we are coming to this terminal area, and from this terminal area then we are moving to different locations after using the terminal area. So, from here we will be coming by some sort of a movement being provided between this terminal area and this final arrivals or departures locations. So, here once we come, then we will be going to all these arms, where these dots being shown, they are basically the gate locations where the aircrafts will be standing like this. And so, once we reach over that gate location, which is defined for each and every flight, then we will be able to board this aircraft. So, here there will be a departure launch where the passengers have to wait before taking this flight. So, these are the various terminal activities being shown in this diagram or figure. Now, we will look at this landside terminal, which is provided on the same airport. Here what we can see is that there are the arrival curves and there are the departure curves being located separately, so that the persons who are coming to the airport or going out of the airport can use all different lanes and can move. Now, here when there are arrival curves, then there is a baggage claim. So, they are directly connected to the baggage claim, where the departure curves are directly connected to the ticketing system, and then they go to the ticket counter, or some commercial curves are there. In between here, when they are moving towards the connectivity to flight side, then there is a security checkup, and there can be an information desk just before, so that if you require some information you can take it. This is the close up condition of the airside terminal, where we have the immigration checks, we have the customs check, then there are international arrivals, and this is a people mover which is providing a connectivity to this air mall with the main terminal building. So, this is how it is being provided on this side, and then there are the different gate locations being provided in this form, and the various facilities will be available in this area, which is a central area. So, it may be in terms of all the passenger utilities being provided here. This is another photograph of the airside terminal of the same international airport, where this is one of the such arm which is coming out, and we can see how the aircrafts have been landed, and this is the concourse which provides the connectivity between this terminal area. So, this is the departure launch which we can see. So, these are all departure launches, and for this departure launch is connected by this concourse being provided in this form to the aircraft. Here also we can see these are all departure launches being provided, and they are flexible departure launches. They can become small like this, or they can become long like this. This is the parking area. This is a hotel being provided, then big parking for long trips, for short trips, then moving walkways. So, every segregated conditions have been shown in this figure, in this diagram being provided at the Pittsburgh International Airport. So, these are all parts of the terminal system. Now, apart from these parts of the terminal system, what needs to be looked at is the relationship of the terminal area with respect to runways. And in this case, the key to a desirable airport layout is to provide the shortest taxiing distances from the terminal area to the takeoff ends of the runway, and to shorten the taxiing distances for landing aircraft as much as is practicable. And the reason behind is that we want to make the total time taken in different processings as small, as less as possible. Then if there is a single runway, then in that case it is better that we locate the terminal building centrally, and in this case the taxiing distances will remain equal regardless of which particular end of the runway strip is being used for takeoff or landing. So, the assumption here will be that we have equal number of arrivals and departures. Further, if there are parallel runways being provided on any of the airport, then the terminal building can be located between those two runways, and we have seen in one of the airports this type of a condition where the terminal building was provided between the parallel runways. And here the assumption will be that the wind conditions are such that landings and takeoffs can be made in either of the direction. Then if one runway is exclusively used for landing or the another is used for takeoff, then it is better to go for the staggered parallel runways, and it can be used with terminal building which is placed near the takeoff ends. So, if it is placed near the takeoff ends, it means it will take lesser of time so as to reach the takeoff position, and therefore, it is optimizing on the operation, because this is a lower speed movement, and this will reduce the taxiing distance both for landing and taking of aircraft, but the exclusive use will affect the capacity and more land will be required due to staggering of the runway strips. Then there is another type of runway configuration which we have previously discussed when discussed about the runways, is the open V runways, and in this case the terminal building is generally located centrally within this V area. So, if this is a V area, then it can be located centrally somewhere like this. Now, when the winds are light, the air traffic controller is able to use both runways for landing or takeoff. In case of high traffic volumes, and if the wind is blowing fairly regularly in the same general direction throughout the year, then 3 runways may be provided, and one set of parallel staggered runway with one more runway. So, that is the way we can handle the type of the conditions which are arising at any of the airport out of the varying traffic volumes or the meteorological conditions, especially in terms of the wind durations, intensities or directions. Now, here in this figure we are looking at a single runway strip, and therefore, in this runway strip one end is being used for takeoff, another is being used for landing, or we can use for landing or takeoff for both the ends. So, either way it can be done. Now, here the terminal area is being located centrally with respect to this runway strip, with multiple connectivities being provided from this terminal area to the runway strip in terms of the exit taxiways as well as the parallel taxiway as shown by the dotted line. This is a case of parallel runway system where this terminal building is being located in the center of these two runway strips, as we can see here. And again we can use the runway ends both for landing or takeoff, and there may be a landing or takeoff in this direction or a landing or takeoff in this direction. Again the multiple connectivities have been shown as we have shown here. It is just the same sort of a condition being created on the other side. So, that is the way it becomes a symmetrical condition. This is for a staggered condition where what we are trying to do is that the heavy traffic is there. So, the takeoff ends have been provided very near to this terminal building, which is otherwise not possible in the case of the parallel runways where this terminal building is centrally located. So, this is a takeoff end and this is a takeoff end, and both the ends are very near to the terminal building, whereas the landing ends or of the runway strip are at the farthest point. And then we are providing the connectivities in this sense that there is an exit taxiway being located like this or this. And this is a unidirectional condition because this taxiway will be used for the takeoff aircrafts, whereas this taxiways will be used for the landing aircrafts, which will be moving towards the terminal building. The various legends have been defined here. We have the lines which defines the taxiways for departing aircraft or the taxiways for arriving aircrafts. The interconnecting parallel taxiways, terminal area, and then TO is an abbreviation like we have used for takeoff. This is a case of open V condition where the terminal area is to be located centrally. So, this is the central line. So, with respect to that, the terminal area has been located, and here again what we can see is that the runway strips are in use with their ends specifically being used for a specific location operation, like maybe takeoff or landing in this case, or takeoff or landing in this case. So, it is a opposite condition for both, because if the takeoff on this runway strip is in this direction and again there is a takeoff in this direction, then both the runway strips cannot be used simultaneously, because there are all chances at this flight end path in the airspace there can be a collision. So, that is the reason why we are having the movements in opposite forms. And again what we can see is that there are unidirectional movements being shown along the exit taxiways or the parallel taxiways have been shown by the dotted lines. This is the another case where we have discussed about the staggered runway strip along with the third runway strip being provided because of the wind conditions prevailing on that airport. And here what we can see is it is a sort of a combination. This is already being seen. So, where we are looking at this takeoff on this side as well as this side, only thing being connected here is this runway strip, and this is connected again from this side where this runway strip can be used for both these ends, either for landing or takeoff. This is a double parallel runway condition where what we can say is that there are these perpendicular exit taxiways being provided, and then these runway strips are used specifically for a specific operation in one direction, and then there are multiple exit taxiways located like this. They are crossing the another runway strip and then they are reaching the terminal area. So, now when we look at the design objectives of providing any terminal building in any of the airport, then these can be classified in terms of airline objectives, the airport management objectives, and community objectives, passenger objectives. So, these are the four categorizations which can be there as far as the different type of objectives are concerned for designing any terminal building. Now, if I look at the airline objectives, then in that case the accommodation is required for the existing and future aircraft fleets with the maximum operational efficiency. So, that is the one objective of any of the airline which is using that airport. Other thing is the provision of direct and efficient means of passenger and baggage flows for all passengers, including domestic and international, originating, terminating and transfer passengers. So, whatever the different type of operations related to passengers can be there, which are in the direct control of the airline, then the space is required for all those type of activities. So, that is why they want to have to do all these things in a more efficient condition. Then there should be a provision of economic, efficient, effective security system, so that the overall security of the flights can be maintained. The provision of facilities which will embrace the latest energy conservation measures needs to be provided, and that is the one of the way of energy conservation implementation programs generally used at any of the places where there is a high or heavy density of flows taking place. Then we can look at the objectives from the perspective of airport management people, and in that case they require the systems for the maintenance of existing terminal operations, the access systems, the runway systems and the ancillary facilities during all stages of construction. So, that is one thing which is related to airport management. Then there are provision of facilities which generate maximum revenues. They also come under the control of airport management, and that is how the management can be managed. So, that is why they look at the revenues, and that is why we found that there are duty free shops etc. being provided on the airports in the case of international flights or other type of shops being provided on the domestic airports. The provision of facilities which maximizes maintenance and operational expenses, that is another thing. Then from the community side, which is residing in that area where the airport is being provided, we have to look at the things like there should be a unique and appropriate expression and impression of the community, that what type of community lives here. So, that is the one thing which any community will always like, that that should be get projected. And the provision of harmony with existing architectural elements of the total terminal complex is another important thing. Whatever is being constructed, if we look at that thing from aerial point of view, or if we look at the thing from the elevation point of views, then there should be harmony between the existing facilities or the development and the new development. They should not look different. Then the coordination with the existing and planned off airport highway systems is another thing, that is it is a thing which is related to the access system to any airport. In terms of the passengers, then the objectives remains is that the responsiveness to the needs of the people relative to convenience, comfort and personal requirements, that is the one thing. Another thing is the provision of effective passenger and access orientation through concise, comprehensive and directional graphics. Then the separation of unplaning and deplaning roadways and curve fronts to ensure maximum operational efficiency, and there should not be mixing of the people moving in different directions. Provision of convenient access to public and employee parking facilities, rental car areas, ancillary facilities and on-site non-aviation facilities. So, whatever different facilities on the ground level from access system being provided, not only for passengers, but also for employees, we need to have a coordination between all those facilities. Now, let us look at the flow of the passengers and the very sequential way in which this flow takes place. There will be arrival of the passengers on any airport, then they will be checking in for boarding pass, immigration and customs if they are going for an international flight. Otherwise, boarding pass will remain whether it is a domestic flight or international flight, means you have the ticket and you go to the check-in counter where a seat will be issued and a pass will be issued to you, which is termed as boarding pass. Then you will be waiting in some area. Then after waiting and the aircrafts have come at the locations, then you will be allowed to move towards the departure lounge. So, means you will be screened at the security for your personal belongings and the baggages. The baggages will be given and they will move by itself to the aircraft, and then you will be moving to the departure lounge, and then finally there will be deplaning. That is, at the deplaning time there may be the immigrations conditions or the some of the baggages is being checked for their weights, etc., and the customs checkings. In that sense, looking at the various types of the flow, the area can be demarcated in different forms like the arrival or departure areas, the baggage acceptance or delivery areas, the informations and the movements. Now we look at the space requirement in the terminal building, because we have already seen the various type of activities. So, on the basis of that, what we found is that the space is required for access interface system, the terminal curbs, roadway elements, parking, and the passenger processing system, the entryways and the foyers, the terminal lobby area, the airline ticket counter and the ticket offices. So, further there are security and checking, immigration checking, the customs check, the baggage handling and claim facilities, the space for unplaning and deplaning passengers or the departure lounges, the corridors, the intra-airport transportation systems, that is within the airport whatever transportation systems needs to be provided. So, looking at these type of the activities which we have just seen, we will try to look at what type of spaces needs to be provided. If it is related to any airline, then we require to provide a space for cabin service and the aircraft management. Then there is an outbound baggage makeup and inbound baggage transfer and conveyor system, that is whatever baggage is coming which is to be taken with the flight is to be placed at one location, and then they make a big containers and they are placed in the containers and will be going towards the flight. Whereas, if it is coming with the flight, then it will come to the transfer point, and from that transfer point it will be taken to the conveyance system by which it reaches the passengers who are waiting in a waiting area for the baggage. Then the space for flight operations and crew ready rooms, that is related for the crew only which will be taking the flight. Storage area for valuables or outsized baggages which needs to be charged because they are of bigger size or some insurance has been there for valuable things. Then there is a air freight and the mail pickup and delivery system. So, that is a specific type of the freight which has come with the any aircraft. So, that is to be taken separately other than the various baggages as being taken related to passengers. Then passenger reservation and VIP waiting areas is another space requirement, and administrative offices. The ramp vehicle and the cart parking and maintenance, so as to take the baggages and the other materials towards the flight or from the flight to the terminal areas. In the case of passenger amenities, we require spaces for food and beverage services, news stands, tobacco stands, the drug stores, gift, clothing, florist shops, the barber shops, the shoe shine stands, the staffed or the automated post offices, the counters for car rentals and flight insurance companies, the public lockers, public and courtesy telephones, then the amusement arcades and vending machines, public restrooms and nursery, duty free shops, foreign exchange facilities provided on international gateways, sanitary facilities everywhere, tourist and help desk, In the case of airport operations and services, we have the offices for airport management and staff functions, including police, medical first aid, building maintenance, then building mechanical systems like heating, ventilation and air conditioning, communication facilities provided on the airports, electrical equipments. These are the things which comes under the operation and services. Then the government offices for air traffic control, weather reporting, public health, immigrations and customs, they are all taking the spaces. Conferences and press facilities, the emergency equipments like for health, fire, etc. So, the space needs to be provided for all these. Now, if we look at the space requirements, then what we look at is that the terminal building usable space comprises of about 95% of its gross area. So, that means up to 95% we are going to utilize the overall space. In usable space, about 50% space is allocated to rentable space and the remainder is non-rentable space. That is what is the distribution of this percent. As a rough estimate, about 25 square meter of gross terminal area is provided per design peak or domestic passengers, and 30 square meter per design are international for international passenger volume. So, depending on the domestic or the international passenger volume, it is 25 square meter or 30 square meter of the gross terminal area respectively. Then the most widely used design parameters for terminal space requirements is typical peak or passenger, which is abbreviated as TPHP, typical peak or passengers. So, within a typical peak hour, what number of passengers are coming, that is what we are talking here. It is defined as the peak hour of an average day of the peak month. In terms of this TPHT, the space requirements are total annual passengers or the TPHT as a percentage of annual flows. This is how it is defined. So, if there are 30 million or over annual passengers, then it is taken as 0.035. Whereas, if it is 20 million to less than 30 million, then it is 0.040, then 10 to less than 20 million, 0.045, then 1 to less than 10 million, it is 0.050, and 0.5 to less than 10 million is 0.080, and if it is 1 to 0.5, then it is 0.13, and under 0.1 it is 0.20. That is how we generally take the values and calculate the flows. Then for different components, we take the space required in 100 square meters per 100 TPHT, and in the case of ticket lobby it is taken as 1.0. For baggage claim it is 1.0, means 1.0 is the multiplicative factor. So, it is 100 square meter per 100 TPHT. Then it is departure lounge, it is 2.0, waiting rooms 1.5, immigrations 1.0, customs 3.0. Further, we have some more components, like for amenities it is 2.0, for airline operations it is 5.0, and if we look at the gross total gross area, then in the case of domestic airport systems it comes out to be 25.0, whereas in the case of international it comes out to be 30.0, and that is what we have seen in the very starting. So, this is what is all about the terminal areas and the terminal buildings and the various facilities which are provided in any of the terminal area or the building. So, in today's lecture we have tried to look at the various type of layouts and the significance of those layouts, and then finally the space requirements for different activities which takes place in any of the terminal building. With this we will be stopping here, and we will be meeting in another lecture related to the airport engineering further. Till then, goodbye and thanks to you.
you.